And I'm going to start, Ash, with one.
Okay.
Where I think that applies to this.
Go on.
Everyone knows this is going to be coming if we're going to be talking about most sort of ridiculous and funny and whatever rivalries in wrestling history. But I'm going to kick things off with Booker T versus Edge.
Yes.
Come off of 2002, 20-year anniversary of that then. Just gone, pretty much. So the rivalry, in a nutshell, is auditioning to be the leading star in a Japanese shampoo commercial. A made-up Japanese shampoo commercial, may I say.
Why are you breaking kayfabe?
I'm sorry, but, it's more serious than anything else. It's more serious than wrestling. It's WrestleMania. And more importantly, Ash, I'm doing it because you're worth it. Because you're worth it. Maybe it's Maybelline. That's makeup, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, you dickhead.
Yes, put that in your hair as well. This one then. Memories.
Well, I wasn't really watching Raw and SmackDown a lot, so I only knew about it when I watched Mania 18 at the time. And then, to be honest, I've never really seen this, why it became big. I've seen the Booker T auditioning for the commercial and then Edge doing it and getting a part because Jerry's there because he's Japanese.
Yeah, and then that was their best way of sort of going for it, wasn't it?
And then, they're just having a match at me. I'm sure they do a promo. I'm sure Booker T does a promo at Mania 18.
I don't remember the promo at Mania 18. Maybe there was. I just don't remember it. But
it's like, so you have to tell us why. And yeah, it's just a stupid.
It's a stupid angle. They're fighting for a very silly reason. But I think, reading between the lines, it's Booker T versus Edge. Obviously, it's going to be a really good match. And this is also, Booker T's still relatively new to the company.
Yeah.
Feels a bit of a step downhill. Obviously, he comes in as WCW World Champion, and now, the following year, I mean, not even a full year later, is it really, from where he's been sort of on screen in the WWF, WWE, he's fighting for a shampoo commercial.
I think he'd been in the company for about 8 months.
Yeah. So it's not far off.
And it's not long. Certainly. And this is Edge, just as soon as he's getting away from the Edge and Christian tag team.
Right. This is I want to say this is like Rob Zombie era Edge.
I think it is.
So, never gonna stop, man, never gonna stop. Is that better than Nickelback?
Yes.
Cool. Well, I'll bring some more Nickelback later for you.
Fuck off.
Yeah, but it's made-up shampoo, a Japanese brand of made-up shampoo, and they're fighting because they want to star in the role for the commercial where they're going to win the kayfabe money, I guess. Weird, isn't it? But it's what's weirder about it, and the reason I think it ranks so high on a lot of people's lists is because the blow-off match was at WrestleMania.
Well, from what I've been told by, I think it was What Culture, on one of their things you don't know about, a Mania series they did years ago. This was meant to be hair versus hair.
I can't remember if I maybe heard Edge talk about this on. He's talked about this before on the Edge and Christian Pod of Awesomeness, the podcast they used to do together.
Yeah.
I'm sure he talked about this particular match on there, but I can't remember if he'd confirmed that or not.
What I remember them saying was that it was going to be hair versus hair. Booker T was going to lose, but because he had grown his hair to a length that he liked, he didn't want to do it.
I don't blame him.
But then this will lead up to the feud after this match between Kurt Angle and Edge. That's why Kurt Angle lost his hair. But my favourite part about this whole story is that at Mania 18, there's a sign during this match. They're fighting over shampoo.
But they were.
Yeah.
They were. And I think, again, we say because it's funny, but again, there was also things that I don't know. I mean, certainly now, and realistically, really, for the time also, but there were some things that are probably considered distasteful, I think, in terms of Japanese representation.
Yeah.
There's always mild racism with things like that, and it's a very weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
'Cause it seems very easy to target that Asian market, and it happens a lot, and it's not just a WWE thing. It happens in Hollywood, like almost all the time, especially at that time as well.
There's videos of like Nick Cage doing Japanese commercials and.
I mean, what would you say about it overall, though? I mean, obviously it's a very silly reason to be having.
You know why I don't know too much. I don't know if it's. I know it's bad, but I'm not sure if it ranks high or low. It's because I don't know if there was a payoff with that commercial. If they ever showed.
Well, no, because it was never an actual thing.
Yeah,
but this might sway it for you to determine where you put it.
Come on.
As we said before, we've done tier lists, episode 3. For ranking every WWE video game ever. That's on YouTube currently. We do talk about Crush Hour in that particular episode, and Crush Hour does factor in to that rivalry. Where Crush Hour come out, obviously one of the things in there was Vince McMahon taking over all the TV networks.
Yes.
And all those wrestlers that was in like different commercials, like Kane on the barbecue, and what was Edge in?
Was it a shampoo one?
It was a shampoo commercial. So, technically, Ash, there was a payoff.
Well, I've just thought about this now. One of the storylines in 2K, not 2K, WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 is a storyline where you fight about a movie role. Basically the same thing.
Okay.
And one of the people you feud with was King Booker.
King Booker!
And he's reading for a part, and I think your character and like whoever the divas were at the time.
I do vaguely remember that.
We're laughing at him, and then he tells you to do better, and then you start
and then
better,
yeah,
and then he beats you up.
That's it. I do remember that now.
But yeah, if there's any footage somewhere of Edge doing commercial,
there's not. It's in Crush Hour though, so you can go and watch that.
I think
it ranks high because it's a very silly reason. The match itself, again, it's Edge versus Booker T. But the reason, very, very silly.
I'm sure WWE did another advert-based rivalry, but not to the same level. I think it was Miz with Mizdow. I can't remember if it was a tag match or they fought each other for a commercial, but they didn't know what it was at the time. Miz wins the match, and it turns out it's about impotence.
Wow. Okay.
I remember.
That sounds about right, but I don't remember it.
I know they did that, but I don't know if they did a match to be a part of this.
So it might not have played into. Okay.
It's just that it reminded me.
Have you got what have you got for your first sort of?
I got one for. I got WCW one.
Okay.
This is WCW 2000, so it's not the best.
This could be anything.
This happened between Stacy Keibler.
Okay.
Who was with David Flair in both storyline and real life at the time. The story was that Stacy Keibler, as Miss Hancock, which was WCW, was pregnant, and she was going to get married to David Flair, but on the wedding night, she said that the baby's not his. So David Flair went a bit crazy and was asking for DNA tests for everyone. And one of the rumoured people that got her pregnant was Buff Bagwell. So this led up to David Flair versus Buff Bagwell at, I think, Halloween Havoc 2000 in a DNA match. And the payoff was that Stacey Keibler, Miss Hancock, was never pregnant. And this came up like a few months later.
It was all just a dream. Isn't that the biggest... It
wasn't a dream. It
was a nightmare.
But when she came...
It was WCW 2000.
She went off TV for a while, came back with a pushchair, but there was no baby. It was pictures of Shawn Stacey. She was never pregnant. And apparently, like, the rumour was it was going to be either Ric Flair, David Flair was actually going to be the father, Buff Bagwell was going to be the father, or Vince Russo was going to be the father.
Well... That sounds about right for 2000s WCW, doesn't it? I'm going to raise your WCW 2000 rivalry with one of my own. I've got Booker T again, can you believe it? And his rivalry with Ahmed Johnson who was no longer going by Ahmed Johnson.
I know what this one is.
And the rivalry itself was for the ownership of the letter T.
Yes, I know this one.
Now, for those who might not be aware of this one, I will repeat that. Booker T versus Ahmed Johnson for the ownership of the letter, the alphabet letter, T. So, as you can imagine, that got pretty heated. Because
Harlem heated.
It did get very Harlem heated. That played a big thing into it. Because Ahmed Johnson comes into WC. Well, I think he just debuted in there.
Yeah, I think he was called Big T.
Big T, and he replaced Booker T in Harlem Heat. So Stevie Ray's there. He comes in. He's Big T. You've got Booker T. WCW higher ups must have been like, well, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's a match made in heaven. We should just book it, and the loser can't call themselves T anymore. It's a copyright claim. I think the actual story behind it is it's the manager, Clarence Mason.
Was it him?
Clarence Mason. I'm sure it was.
I'm sure they had a big guy.
I thought it was. I think it was Clarence Mason's was in. Yeah, I'm sure it's Clarence Mason.
It was definitely
because it'd come from WWF over to WCW, and I think it was him filing the lawsuit, like in the storyline for the letter T. That's what I'm sure it was something like that. But regardless, even if I've got that bit wrong, and Booker, of course, lost it.
Yeah, did it become? That's why he came GI Bro, I think.
GI Bro. I think you might be right there. I can't remember it all because 2000 is just a whirlwind of absolute garbage.
But he must have won it back because otherwise he was.
Well, that or he owes a lot of money to Ahmed Johnson. Maybe that's what their real life beef's about. Copyright the alphabet quick, boys and girls, because you never know who's going to want to challenge you to a match. That's my advice.
Yeah.
What, are you going to beat that?
Well, I got another WCW 2000 one.
Okay, you fight fire with fire.
Well, yeah, basically the Sting Vampiro rivalry, leading up to the Human Torch match.
Yeah, and this was one of them. Like, would you say it was a dream match? They were very similar.
If you go by gimmick to gimmick, yes, but style by style, I don't think it would have worked. Vampiro
said on Chris Van Vliet's show, when it still used to be called that he thought essentially Sting was like a poser because, like, Vampiro's whole get-up is it's not a gimmick to him. Like that's who he is.
Yeah, I've heard him say
that's how he lived his life. So
I also think the reason why they did them two together is kind of the same way I feel like they put Darby Allin with Sting is because they got face paint and
well, why not?
Yeah, just the way that I think wrestling bookers think.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't really remember there being like much of a rivalry between Sting and Vampiro.
But it was there for about 2 or 3 pay-per-views.
But what was the reason that they fought? Was it that?
I don't know. I just know that they fought, and Sting won a couple of pay-per-views, big pay-per-view matches, and all of a sudden they've got an Inferno match.
If we're going to look at reasons, I'm going to beat that with this one's not. Well, actually, no, I am. I'll stick with WCW.
Oh, go on.
You alluded to it earlier with a little Easter egg. This one though isn't from 2000. What? It is from the mid-90s. So the 90s, big decade really for many things, gaming particularly. One of the biggest franchises to come out in the 90s was, of course, Mortal Kombat.
Love them.
To capitalise on the success of Mortal Kombat, again, this is quite a well-known one in the wrestling community, but the debut of Glacier, Ash.
Yes.
This whole debacle. So Glacier came into WCW, I think it was 96. He came in.
I think 96, 97?
I think it's 96. So the rivalry is referred to now as Blood Runs Cold. I'm sure it's 96 because it was around, because it's one of the other things that made it such a, like, stand out like a sore thumb, if you want, because the NWO is basically formed now at this point, and that's a very, it's quite edgy, and that's, the NWO is obviously, looking back on it now, but the NWO takes wrestling into this whole new direction and really does shake up the landscape. But in terms of Glacier and where this came about, the Glacier character was built up for months. I mean, I think it was like half a year. It was like 6 months.
It was a long time.
It was ages. And they built him up in these vignettes for months and months. And it's this character that was going to come in, big dude, but he had like, I think was it like his helmet was like special powers, gave him powers. It was something like that. But the character itself was essentially like a nod to Sub-Zero then, I guess.
Yeah, it was.
For Mortal Kombat. And he was going up against his arch nemesis, Mortius. Yeah, I kept thinking Mordecai then. I was like, that's not the same thing. Yeah, Mortius, who I suppose was the Scorpion ripoff.
Yeah.
But different colour scheme.
Well, yeah, it was green, wasn't he?
He was green. Yeah.
Which would have been...
But Scorpion, I think, wasn't Scorpion at this point, though, like the big kind of rival for Sub-Zero?
Yeah.
At that point in the game.
It always has been.
Well, yeah, mainly.
I guess they couldn't do yellow because at that time... Actually, they could have done it at that time because there was no Hogan. It was Hollywood Hogan.
Well, yeah. Not that should have mattered. Like you just said with Vampiro and Sting, it was, you know, you had contrasts all over the place, like similarities and things. But, yeah, the storyline was that. Like, that's the story, is that they're basically Mortal Kombat rip-offs fighting each other in this kind of superhero, super villain, cartoon kind of esque setting, which is, again, it was very out of place for where it seemed like the company and pro wrestling as a whole was sort of moving to.
Definitely. At
that time. I don't think the actual rivalry itself went on for very long, but the reports were, and this is how much WCW invested in the Glacier character. So to put this into perspective, WCW obviously believed in it enough to invest $35,000 approximately in the attire alone for Glacier.
They had money to burn.
And they certainly did burn it, didn't they? But
they didn't freeze it, did they?
But it was. Think of that, 35 grand on just an attire that everybody laughed at, basically. But I mean, the Glacier character itself, I mean, he carried on. I mean, he's
still going, isn't he?
Still going. So
was it at GCW or was it an AEW thing?
He showed up in AEW, I think, didn't he? He showed up in one of their battle royals, I think.
Was he in the first Casino Battle Royal?
I think he was. That was at the Double or Nothing in 2019.
Yeah, the one that Hangman won.
MJF eliminated him, I believe.
Makes sense.
But yeah, and he's been around obviously the independent circuit and things like that. Overall, WTF.
WCW.